wasn't deliberately trying to be reclusive as such. I just always kind of felt more that the art should be more important than the artist. But no, it's mainly just because I think essentially I want this more to be sort of more identifiable, really. That's what I'm sort of hoping will come out of working this way rather than sort of the more obscure, reclusive way of working in the past. I mean, I think the first two times I actually heard music and that made me think, oh yeah, I kind of like this, and maybe something I could really get into. First thing was Depeche Mode, Enjoy the Silence, and just being in a comic shop and hearing that and thinking, wow, I really like this, and who did it? I took this quest to find who'd actually made that song. And again, the first record actually was actually Black Celebration by Nocturne Violator, which was out that year because I found it at £1 for £1 in a car boot sale. And the other sort of song I remember being quite pivotal that year, 1990, was the song Killer by Dambsky and Seal. I sort of thought, yeah, we get into this, I really like this. And a few years later, then I sort of discovered sort of things like sort of Ministry and Nine Inch Nails. I kind of like the fact they kind of had that sort of the electronic background, it was sort of made in a similar way to things that I liked already, but had a kind of that same intensity, that sort of same aggression that maybe sort of a punk or a metal band might have as well. So I really got into that for quite a while. And sort of inspired me to sort of think, oh, I can maybe do something like this myself. Trouble was, back then I was earning £3.75 an hour for 10 hours in a supermarket whilst I was at college, and sort of things like an Akai sort of sample was way out of my budget. So, I had a cheap keyboard I tried to learn, failed badly, tried to learn guitar, failed badly, and so consigned myself to the fact that kind of I was going to be a very rubbish musician for most of my life. And the next time I tried to do things with music was about the year 2000. By the time I was actually working, so I thought, okay, so I bought a cheap Yamaha keyboard and some sequencing software. Again, I was never really entirely happy with what I did during that period. I kind of felt that it sort of needed a bit of work, really. I mean, two songs we still haven't sort of our lineup now came up here, Contamination and Embryo. The first two versions of those were sort of composed then, so those songs actually were 16 years old, really. I mean, obviously the versions that are now out there are very different to what I did back then. So that's kind of where that's. So I kind of again didn't feel it was going anywhere, so sort of again stopped for a bit, and then kind of about the year sort of 20 times I get the itch again, thinking, ooh, what's that there now I can do? And then I discovered the Audacity program, which of course basically is just you can put sounds into it and make all sorts of wonderful things out of them, and that's kind of what I mainly used. And then sort of just found that you could put things up on YouTube, on SoundCloud, then just go to Bandcamp, and so that's basically how I've been sort of bring up what I've done so far, really. So how did the remix for Purity come about? I mean, I've known Howard Gardner for again about 15, 16 years. We were sort of clubbing friends and stuff like that. And kind of I was going back over my old material, sort of again, dust it off, trying to improve it a bit. And the idea popped to me, well, maybe I could ask somebody else to get involved. And he had mentioned to me once that he was sort of interested in the remixes for other people. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just feel this out and see if he's interested. And he was, so I gave that track to him. I mean, he's obviously sort of, I think our styles aren't too dissimilar. I mean, he's very much into sort of creating some wonderful effects. He has these wonderful gadgets he builds out, speaking spells and circuit bent radio, things like that, which sort of, I'm too stupid to sort of create stuff like that, whereas he's just a genius at making all these wonderful sort of electronic devices that he uses for his performances and the music he makes, his own bio. So I thought maybe just give it to him and see what he'd do with it, really. Also, I was kind of conscious as well that he was kind of, had more of a kind of dance floor bent to some of his music, which maybe kind of we needed, because I think we were a little bit more retro in our sound, more sort of like an 80s band, whereas, I kind of wanted us to be a bit more contemporary. I wanted to make music that would maybe potentially be played in a sort of a club or something like that, and that's what I thought maybe he'd be able to help us out with. So I gave that to him, and he said that he actually did 2 tracks for us, sort of Purity. He also did a remix of Beyond Reality, which is very different to the original version, very sort of film noirish, which I was quite impressed by. So they came back to me, and I was just very impressed with the work. I'm very happy with what he did, and I'm just astounded how it's worked out. I'm just very grateful for his help. And he's also shot a little bit of footage just in the Purity video. The shot of the speaking stuff actually his, so credit where credit's due on that one. But I'm very grateful that he's been, very keen to get involved and helped us out with that. The big problem now, as I see, is more the commercial side of things. It's very, very hard, I think, to promote, even though it's easy to actually make what you want to make. It's very, very hard to promote, I think. And you know, it's great when you see all these things on YouTube. We see interviews of people who had sort of record contracts sort of 25 years ago, got big. And they're saying, "Oh yeah, it's up to you kids. You just get it out there. You know, you let the people decide now. You just get your stuff out there." Which is great when they sort of had like sort of $1 million, pound sort of promotional budgets back then, and they made their way that way, you know, which, you know, obviously people like me don't have. So it is tricky, and it's that people say, oh yeah, well, get on Facebook, get on Twitter, do this sort of thing. But I mean, the problem is, if you're very sociable and have a huge network of people out there and that kind of thing, then great, you're going to be wonderful, because word of mouth, isn't it? Things like that. But if you're sort of very unsociable like me, you know, and it's been the whole time just sort of doing crazy stuff on computers, making what people might think is just rubbish music, you know, each their own, I guess, then it's a bit trickier, and that word of mouth thing is very hard to generate. Yeah, but it's very hard to promote, and that's the thing I think is the main problem, really. It's kind of like, how do you spread the word of mouth? I mean, if you go and play live, I mean, I've been to sort of shows and gigs with like just 20 people in the audience. Is it really worth doing that just for the sake of 20 people that are going to show up? And, you know, that's why I was questioned about sort of moving into that arena, really, because there'd be a lot of cost and effort involved. Would it really give much of a return? Would it really be worth it? You know, that's questions I'm still asking now, really. Yeah. Yeah, so it's again, I think we're kind of, you know, where we're operating is good. I don't really see us making too many hard copy releases as such yet. Yeah, but no, it is very difficult to promote yourself now. I think that's the hardest part now. And so that's maybe sort of something I think we have to think of a way of doing that. Unless you do sort of very sort of outrageous, crazy stunts, really. There's no other way really of drawing attention to yourself and what you do. So that's definitely the hardest thing I think at the moment, if you're sort of trying to sort of put out new music or new sounds or anything like that. Right, a bit narcissistic, say what my favourite sort of things I've done are. I mean, the one that I really like, the sort of tunes that have very few views or interest on the various platforms we put it out on, is like Human Playthings. Um, because the genesis, it was very long. Originally it had all these weird sort of sampled harpsichords on it, which didn't really work. I went on the back burner with it for a bit. I was just playing around with an acoustic guitar once, came up with that really sort of weird, bizarre riff. What's this kind of interesting? Then just put it through sort of some of the filters on Audacity and just create this weird, wild, distorted electronic guitar sound out of it. It just blew my head off. I went, oh, that's great, we've got to do something with that. So it kind of ended up basically sort of, when those words, you can play them through, fitted it well. I like Gallus Fornicarum because it's just funny, stupid track basically. People ask me who the sample is. Actually, it's my wife. Once when we were a bit younger, we went to a festival, got mildly drunk, and at the time a young lady started coming on to her, and obviously not really her thing. So once that moment had finished, she kind of then sort of ran this rather drunk around about how she sort of preferred men, which got recorded on video. That video survived, and I extracted that, and that's what ended up as the sample on Gallus Fornicarum. So now you know. I actually do quite like the remix of Purity that Non-Bio have done. I think it sort of really adds something to the track. It's a sort of place I can imagine dancing to at a club or something. So it's kind of taken us to another dimension, which I'm very happy with. The other thing I like at the moment, I really sort of quite like the new version of Contamination we've done, the ambient mix. I think it's a very nice sort of chill out track. A friend of mine started playing it the other day and actually said she started falling asleep to it, so I should try and market it as a kind of sort of relaxation sort of take to get people to sleep. Which I consider sort of a compliment, maybe a sort of backhanded insult, I don't know. So that's another favourite of mine. I mean, because the thing that sort of I would say about a lot of what we do, if you notice, the tracks that kind of have the more prettier, romantic kind of lyrics tend to have the much more harsher backing tracks. Again, you could look at something else we've done, like sort of Never the Bride, which has got a pretty beautiful little sort of melody to it, and it's kind of very sort of much like an 80s sort of early synth pops piece, but then it's got really quite nasty lyrics basically, you know, see the maggots crawling to the top and things like that, which is kind of, there's actually a whole second verse I cut out because it's just so just terrible and sort of just aggressive and nasty. I just thought, no, maybe I don't really want to sort of be putting something that aggressive, so that's why, yeah, so it goes very quiet towards the end, not much vocals towards the end of that one. But I like to sort of do like this sort of juxtaposition, so kind of you have the kind of more aggressive music with the sort of more softer lyrics, the more harsher lyrics, have the sort of more softer backing track. I like things like that, kind of where you have to kind of delve a bit on the surface. It may seem like something, but if you go deeper, it's actually something else. I mean, favourite sounds we've created. I really kind of like the sounds on the new version, the Caged Animal mix of Slasher 13 that's on Regurgitated. There's what sounds like a loud burst of guitar or something, or feedback. What it actually is actually at one point in my house, we actually had a tap with a really sort of horrible sort of distorted washer in it or something. You know, this horrible screeching sound every time you turned it on. I'm thinking that would make a really good sound to use at some point, or it's something for something we're doing. So I recorded it, kept it on the shelf, and was, you know, one point going back over these things and thought, aha, I remember I used that for some, because I felt the Slasher 13 needed something. At one point I had like a motorbike engine and all sorts of bizarre things over the years that have been on it. It's a very sort of complicated genesis, that one. And I remember just thinking, wow, we could do something with that sound. So we put it on the track, and it just sounded amazing. It took it to another level to really get a rude, aggressive tone. So kept trying to distort it a little bit and sort of reversed it at certain points. Ooh, what other sounds have been sort of hard to make? I know on the track My Dying Machine. My Dying Machine by Gary Newman. No, A Dying Machine is our track. There's actually the sound somebody crying, like a crying sort of robot or something, or machine, obviously, hence the title. And it's actually, that's the game operation. Yeah, it was actually one of the sounds it makes when you sort of set the context of the tweezers. I recorded that and distorted all that, and you can hear that on there as a sort of the sound of the crying robot, which is I think works out quite well. I mean, I tried to sort of use wherever I can things recorded for sort of samples and sounds and whatnot. I'm loath to use sort of presets and things that sort of found off the shelf, as it were. Not saying we don't use things, we do sometimes. I mean, like I said, off the whale, you know, I didn't go and record a whale for sort of, you know, some of the space whale. I actually found a whale recording and used that. So, yeah, so I'm not sure if I have to go into the sea and recording a whale or anything like that. You know, maybe one day we've got a bit more money. And obviously sort of the metallic sounds and that, they actually are real bits of metal we crash and bash and sort of put through filters and distortion, and that's where those come from. So like I said, I'm very adamant to try, and I've always looked at it, been this idea of using found sound as much as possible and creating things out of that. And like I said, I think the two tracks are most closest in terms of being all found sounds, so Slasher 13 and A Dying Machine. There's a bit of bass was done on the synth for sort of Slasher 13, just to give it a bit of rhythm, but I mean, apart from everything else is all sort of, you know, created found sounds, as it were. As for any others, I mean, like I said, we use sort of acoustic guitars, things like Human Playthings, but we try to distort them back into something else, because I'm very much against the idea of traditional kind of electric guitar sound, things like that. I'm just trying to do something different with it. You know, I want people to sort of listen to me. How the hell can they do that? Once I've just told you now, I've done a few of these things. I don't give all my secrets away, but yeah, so that's something we're very much sort of into, is the idea of making our own sounds and creating things people haven't heard before. Hopes for the future. I mean, like I've said, I'm now at this point where I feel I'm trying to push things a bit further. Actually, believe it or not, don't have anything sitting on the shelf waiting to go. I know when usually people do these interviews, they go, "Oh yeah, we've started working on our next album," and things like that. I haven't actually. I'm just going to see how Regurgitated goes first. If it is more successful than things we've done in the past, I will move further. Then I suspect that's my plan. This is almost, it's just the last chance saloon as such, really. But I'm conscious on getting on a bit now, and you know, if something's going to happen, it's got to happen soon. So fingers crossed, Regurgitated, the Purity video will push things a bit further. That's my hope for them. You know, and just hoping that sort of, you know, the word of mouth gets in, cute kids in the video, 80s nostalgia will hopefully sort of spread. But also, of course, a very good, you know, remix. It's very dance floor friendly. Fingers crossed, this will be the one that kind of breaks through. So I've not really sort of planned to make anything in the future. Maybe some more videos we might do. I mean, I'll consider maybe doing some videos for some of the other tracks on Regurgitated. Not sure which yet. I mean, a few of them I think sort of would lend themselves to kind of more of a cinematic approach rather than a performance approach. Also, maybe might do some more versions, and yeah, I'm conscious of just redoing the same things over and over again. But I might just sort of maybe redo some other tracks at some point in the future. We'll see how it goes. Maybe just accompany sort of maybe those videos. I don't know. I mean, the other thing obviously does crop up is the idea, should we go out on stage and perform live? I'd probably like to do it just a few times properly, just to scare myself silly, maybe, just to see how it does go. Obviously, it won't be live performances as such, really. It will rely heavily on backing tracks, computers. I mean, hopefully we can put live vocals in, maybe me or somebody else. I don't know. You know, it depends if we can find somebody who maybe can actually sing these things rather than just do the sort of monologues that I do. Sort of my William Shatner style singing isn't always going to be sort of necessarily what would be the best thing, but if it's all we can have, then that's what we have to do. I'd like to maybe integrate live percussion, things like that. Maybe play some live samples. I don't know. I mean, it's just obviously going to be more a performance art thing than an actual sort of, you know, four-piece band, because that's not what we are, and we never will be that. So maybe we'll just see. I mean, I'm not, no promises. I don't know. It's like I would like to give it a go once, just to sort of terrify myself, see how it goes, and we'll take it from there. Really. I mean, I do know is happening for definite though is I shall be returning the favour for non-bio, so that's something to look forward to. That definitely will be happening. Yeah, you know, see how that turns out. It's going to you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of way. So that's definitely on the agenda. So yeah, I mean, it's just to wait and see really. I mean, any future plans are basically very much dependent on how Regurgitated and the Purity video go over. I said if they do prove popular and people want more, I'll give people more. If nobody's interested, I don't know really. I'll just see how I feel really. I mean, I think sort of if we have any sort of future sort of plans or kind of sort of ideas of how we're going to move forward in the future, I kind of like the way the monologue works at being a Slasher 13. And I thought maybe we could do something like that in future for future tracks. We could sort of maybe sort of have sort of maybe more ambient pieces like, you know, Contamination remix. Maybe sort of work some spoken word over that maybe, because obviously I'm never going to be able to sing. So, you know, having something like that thing works quite well. And I always like the idea basically of these sort of pieces telling stories. So what I'd say is, yeah, for the future, it's a wait and see. You know, you may see more of us. You know, this may go on hiatus for a bit. I don't know. I'm never going to sort of say never. Because like I said, there's been huge gaps in the past where I've not done things for like 10 years and then gone back to it. So yeah, there could be something more. I mean, never say never is mine. It's a James Bond thing. Never say never again.